Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I have Viz out with me temporarily. You'll only see him temporarily because we're gonna cut to show you guys the Crested Gecko enclosures. But as I was saying, this video is going to be a tour of all my Crested Gecko enclosures that I just recently built for my Crested Geckos Rue, Rayla, and Roshi. Viserian, are you gonna come down? Here we are. So before we get started, I ask that you please give us a like, give Viserian a like. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell. Check us out on Patreon. We are very, very grateful to our Patreon supporters, or you can become a channel member. That's an option for you too. But yeah, all that is linked down below, so please check it out. And yeah, without further ado, let's go take a look at the Crested Gecko enclosures. So I decided I was going to introduce you guys to my Crested Geckos in this video as well, so it's not just a tour, it's a meet my Crested Geckos as well. So Ree was born in September of 2012, making her 10 years old this year. Ree was rehomed to me from a breeder as a pet only in June of 2014. She was my first reptile. She's pet only due to being an extremely slow grower. When I brought her home, she was still quite small. With time and with switching up her diet and her eating habits, Ree grew. As far as personalities go, Ree is extremely shy. She will also bite me if I'm irritating her, so I don't really handle her too much because she doesn't like it and I don't like being bitten. Out of all my Crested Geckos, Ree is the most reclusive and the most difficult. And now let's take a look at her recently upgraded enclosure. So all the Crested Geckos, including Ree, are in 18-18-24 Exoterras. All of the Crested Geckos have some form of DIY background. Hers was made using the expanding foam, silicone, and EcoWorth method. I also included some manzanita into the background of her enclosure, but there's also some freestanding pieces as well. I wanted to give her as many hiding places as possible because she is so reclusive, and having more branches in there means that she can navigate the enclosure without being seen as much, and it also gave more room to anchor the fake pothos plants, which are from Flukers. I'll leave a link for them down below. I think they're in my Amazon affiliate link actually. But anyways, so I wanted to make sure that she had plenty of hiding spaces. So hers is like the most challenging to look into. I also built in a feeding ledge to their background, so I didn't have to have like an ugly piece of plastic in there like I did for their other enclosures. And they also have bioactive substrate. It's bioactive with isopods and springtails. It also has leaf litter and sphagnum moss on top, but the substrate itself is a really simple blend, which we'll actually get to in the next gecko that we tour. This is Rue. I got Rue almost 5 years after I got Ree, so I had a whole 5-year span. Also, this is me crying the first time that I saw her because I'm just an emotional person like that. But I got her in April of 2019 by a breeder who was keeping her as a pet only. She had been sent as an extra gecko to that person who had purchased her from, well, not purchased her, but purchased other geckos from a breeder, and then she was just sent along as an extra. Rue was born this way. It's possible her mother was lacking calcium, resulting in bone deformities that we see now. She doesn't know she's any different. She's a fantastic eater, whether it be insects or Pangea. She excels at climbing and also excels at scurrying away from me. She's an easier gecko than Ree despite her birth defects. And here you can see her finishing up her dubia roach and her favorite hide. She absolutely loves this middle cork. So anyways, let's go ahead and take a look at her enclosure. So while Ree had manzanita, I decided to give Rue some twisted vine wood. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but I got it from Josh's Frogs. I'll leave a link for it down below because her background has a bunch of Malaysian and Mopani driftwood anchored into it to offer a lot of hiding spaces and climbing spaces. And so because there wasn't manzanita in hers, I wanted to go with a darker wood choice. And the twisty vine wood actually worked out really well because it holds everything in place, like her cork rounds and her fake plants. But like I was saying, all of the Crested Geckos have bioactive substrate. The substrate is a blend that I made myself. I will have a video about how I make substrate coming out in the near future. However, I just don't have it out right now, so keep your eyes peeled for that. The substrate is a blend of organic topsoil that was baked and sifted. There's also a tiny bit of sifted washed play sand in there. There's also cocoa chip, cocoa fiber, and sphagnum moss. And then everything is topped with leaf litter. And the isopods that I went with for the substrate were Dalmatian isopods, which actually you'll get to see in a clip after I introduce you to the next gecko, who is Roshi. Roshi was being rehomed on Craigslist by his former owner, who said they were more interested in snakes than geckos. My ex paid a rehoming fee for him as a birthday gift to me, and he came to live here in June of 2019. Roshi is the only Crested Gecko I brought home based on his appearance, and he is the only male Crested Gecko that I have. He is a firecracker. He's fast, he's unpredictable, and he likes to jump. I feel like he was easier in the beginning, and as time has gone on, he has become more challenging, so that's okay. I appreciate him anyway. He's still easier than Ree. And this is his enclosure, which is kind of left a bit empty at the top. You'll notice there's no plants at the top. It's just kind of open with a couple branches. And that is because one of his favorite nighttime activities is to launch himself across the enclosure. So I wanted to be able to give him branches he could perch on and jump to and from, and also give him plenty of space up there so he could just go absolutely wild. Now, he prefers to sleep at the bottom of his enclosure, which I find interesting because most crested geckos like to sleep up top, but he'll be sleeping in a cork round towards the bottom, and you'll see his butt here in a second. His enclosure features manzanita, much like Ree's, and it has a background that is built with the Zoom Med cork tiles, which I had a bunch of extras, so I just put them together with expanding foam and then covered that all in silicone and EcoEarth. Here are the baby Dalmatian isopods. There's also some full-grown ones in here, but you see the babies more often. But there's some babies. They're very cute. I love them so much. It's so nice to see little, like, springtails and isopods in the enclosure. And here I am looking for Roshi. He's not in his middle cork. He's in the very bottom one, like I said. And there's his little booty. That's all you can see of him, unfortunately. This is Rayla. When I built my crested gecko enclosures a couple years ago, I had space for 4, so I built 4. But I only had 3 geckos, and I decided the next rescue, pet only, or special needs crested gecko I came across, I would get it, and that was Rayla. Rayla was being rehomed as a pet only just because she is ugly. Like Rue and Ree, Rayla is mostly crestless. But the previous owner decided she just wasn't up to breeding standards and wanted her to have a pet-only home, so I stepped in, and she came home in April of 2020. Rayla is easygoing and a fantastic eater. She doesn't mind sitting right in front of me to eat, which I very much appreciate because, Ree is not about that life. She's the goofiest looking of the bunch, in my opinion, and like Rue and Roshi, she's easier than Ree. And here's her enclosure. She has a bunch of manzanita, both aged and, not aged. So sometimes you can buy manzanita that's weathered naturally, and then sometimes you get it sand blasted. So she has both of those. She also has a bunch of faux rocks and ledges. Well, there's one ledge and a bunch of faux rocks, but those are actually custom reptile habitats and universal rocks products that I had sitting in my closet. And a lot of the things I ended up using in the backgrounds of their enclosures were things that I had lying around, and I didn't want all their backgrounds to look alike, so I ended up using the rocks, and I just mounted them to some cocoa fiber mat with silicone and then painted over top of everything with silicone and put EcoEarth and sphagnum moss on it to make it look kind of more natural. It's not my favorite background I've ever done, but it gets the job done, and it looks kind of cohesive but also different from all the other enclosures. And here I'm trying to show you Miss Rayla. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed seeing the crested gecko enclosures. Let me know what type of setups that you use for your crested geckos, because there's so many different ways to keep them. I ask that you please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Also, please leave a comment and consider checking us out on Patreon or becoming a channel member. We're very happy to have you. And Viserion is very happy to have you, but he's also trying to run away. So with that, I bid you all farewell, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye. Say bye, Viz. He said bye. You just can't hear him.